right. It has been a long day, and honestly, I'm sort of dreading this video. I feel so tired. But I was waiting around until my husband left for work. Then I was waiting around for the holdings to post so we can see the updated holdings with the new trades for today. And then we had a bad storm here in Kentucky last night. And I guess technically it was this morning around 4 o'clock. And living in an RV and having a bunch of hail and heavy winds, you bet I was out of bed this morning, just making sure everything was okay and making sure there's no tornadoes or anything around. But here I am, so I'm still alive. Made it through. I tried to make some notes. I wish I'd have done this earlier, because I'd already answered most of the comments on my videos. And so just to let you know, your messages, I read all of them and I will respond. At this point, I can still respond to every single message. I just wish I'd have made notes from some of them, because even though I responded to you individually, I'm sure some others may have similar questions. But I did make a few notes here. First, I want to say thank you to everybody that has started or is sharing, whether sharing my channel, whether you mention it in your videos or you've shared it, via social media or other groups or discords or whatever else. I know I mentioned yesterday about how retire on dividends. Had talked about Happy Camper yesterday, so he thought of me and he mentioned me there. That was yesterday morning. And then last night, Max Convexity, he did a video and was talking about the trades and how they're confusing and stuff, which is exactly how I felt, especially when I first started. And then he was talking about how he watched my videos. So then he mentioned about people joining the page as well. So, and then this morning, apparently, Yieldmax actually tagged me in a post about their new ETF coming out. So, like, in the past 36 hours, it's just been like boom, boom, boom. So, I greatly appreciate it. And one thing I do want to point out, and I pointed this out to Max already, and I'm sure some of you, I think I only have a couple of subscribers, but it's about double in the past 36 hours. But so if you didn't watch any of my previous videos, I am not an expert. I'm not a financial planner. I'm not anything. I'm a spreadsheet person. And as Max put it, I'm a good data gatherer and presenter and everything else. So, but yeah, I usually work in Excel. That's actually what I do as my day job, all day, every day as a budget analyst. And, of course, I'm learning to do sheets because of the Google Finance functions and stuff. And then, of course, I'm not an options person, so I'm learning options at the same time. But I would like to give a shout out. I know I mentioned the Retire on Dividends Discord last night. I just want to shout that out again. And the link is on the Retire on Dividends YouTube page. He has the link for the Discord there. But if you haven't already joined, you can join that. You'll find, obviously, Mark in there, Retire on Dividends. Max Convexity is also within that group. And for those of you that follow also Mike, the Tactical Stock Scalper, if you don't follow him, then if you want to see some more of the technical analysis of charts and everything, he would be a good follow. And he's also in the group. And there's lots of other people in the group. And when it came to these, and I told you I had to dumb down these sheets for myself. And I've put some, I'm sorry, I thought I had these already ready to go. Some of these codes in here, like if they were synthetics or weeklies, or if they're buying or selling or opening and closing. I mean, me and Slayer went back and forth over and over again to make sure that I was understanding what what he was saying and make sure I was comprehending, and then looking at sample trades, and that's why I've gotten confused on a few of them. I think JPMO, yeah, was it's happened a couple of issues, couple of different times, and then there was another issue on another one before, I believe, but yeah, and that's what really got me confused. Now I'm like, okay, it's pretty easy, and I've got me a little cheat sheet. But I know he did help a lot. And then there's lots of other people within the Discord that help out. And some people, they just don't want to create videos. They just want to, they'll be there though if you have questions and stuff, and they'll ask in the Discord. And like I said yesterday, we have lots of groups, lots of different topics, lots of different funds that we look at, not just Yieldmax, not just Defiance and Clip. I mean, we have, man, I hate to even try to guess which ones without pulling it up, but I know we have iShares and just a bunch of other ones in there. I know before people have asked about making a YouTube about the Discord to sort of go through it and just review it, and I've never done it because I'm usually one of those that would prefer to just sit on the sidelines before I started doing this. In fact, I started out helping out with the group with just doing the earnings sheet because I felt like I was the only one not contributing to something. And then, of course, became a moderator and then started organizing the channel and doing all that stuff. And now I am working on some of these videos. But yeah, I guess long story short there, make sure you join the Discord. And you'll have access to a lot of these YouTubers here talking about these funds. We do have a few other new ones in there before I forget. I know we have we have Gen Z Investor in there. He's started doing videos and is sharing those. And we also have the trading car mechanic also. And we share our videos in there and other videos that we find that we think may be helpful for something. We'll share those in there, and charts and just all kinds of information. Just a reminder, it had another question about payment projections, or estimates or distributions, however you want to word it. But I will not try to do that this month for these. Of course, I'll do YMAG and YMAX just like I did last month because those were pretty easy. Those are easy. But as far as the rest of these, I don't have the data for the entire month to even try to give an estimate on the earnings for the month, though I've started to create a tab in here. So I can, when that time comes, hopefully I'll have things built for that. And yes, I love spreadsheets. I think I've mentioned that before, but somebody had made a comment about that. But yes, they used to call me the spreadsheet queen when I worked in Nashville because I had a spreadsheet for everything. And then... and I'd already mentioned that I like to hold these videos until I get the holdings posted. I know one night I didn't wait anymore because it was already past 11, and then just went on, and then of course the middle of the video they ended up updating. But that's why it's usually later in the evening. With that said, I have drill on Friday. So I'm going to try to do it Friday night if possible. I just don't know. I normally work from home, but obviously I'll have to actually go to drill, and then I'll be out and not sure what I'm doing, how long that day's going to be, or when I'll get home, and how tired I'll be because usually for drill weekends, it just takes a lot of energy out of me to get out there and do all the things that need to be done for drill. But I'm going to try to do that Friday. Worst case, if it doesn't happen, I will get it done Sunday before the week starts. I promise. And then, yeah, like I said, I read your messages, and I know somebody had requested something, and I actually already have a sheet that I use personally. I'll do some things for the yields and the payouts and the distributions as far as the pass and show, and I can show you sort of the averages and go through some of those. And I actually already thought about doing that, and I had the dates and different things like that, so I can do a separate video on that. And they're not all just Yieldmax and Defiant, so I have a few other ones, and then I'll add some that others are doing. And now I just feel totally bad because I forgot to mention Rex shares when I was mentioning and Curve funds earlier. So sorry about that for those, for you Rex fund managers and Curve fund managers out there. But anyway, I'll do something separate on those, and then. But if y'all want to see anything else or need anything else, especially if it's spreadsheet related and you just want to see data a different way, just let me know. I'll add it to my to-do list. I have lots of projects that I start and I don't always get finished, but if I know it's something that somebody wants, and especially if I'm already in the works, then I can usually pull that together pretty quickly. Again, I have a full-time day job, so I work for the government full-time, and then of course I work for the Army part-time on the weekend. So then this is on top of that, along with of course my family and everything. So I will work everything in as I can. And with that, I think I've sort of gone through this list, and sorry, this has taken a lot longer than I'd planned for it to. We also have almost forgot because I went away from this, we have the new ETF that will be coming out tomorrow, ULTY. Now, this one, when I look at it, and y'all might not have this issue, and if you don't, I'm sorry to even put this in your head. But when I have a bad habit of glancing at things because I'm a numbers person and not really a word person or a reader. But I look at that and in my head, I think utility. And obviously, it's when I think utility, I'm thinking UTLY in my head. And honestly, I haven't even looked up to see if there is a ticker with that already. But I need to remind myself ultra, or at least the opposite of the LT, because this is the ultra option income strategy and it's ULTY. So when you go to do this, make sure you're putting in the correct ticker. So ULT for the ultra, and then of course Y for the Yieldmax, like most of the funds are, a lot of the funds are. So again, that'll be coming out tomorrow. I am not sure how I'm going to do this yet. I was tagged in this post this morning, so I sort of felt like that was a hint, hey, don't forget that this one's coming out, because I did do that last week with MSTR. I had even commented in our group. I shared, when I see things, I share it within the Discord and stuff, and I'd put it out there, but then I totally forgot it on my trades and stuff. So on these tabs, as far as pulling in the formulas and the data. But with this, being a portfolio of up to 30 covered call strategies, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to add this to this, or if that's going to be something that's going to have to be done totally separate from this. So at this point, I have them on here. I went ahead and put them on here last night or earlier after seeing this post and reminding me. Just so at least I can pull the data in and we'll see how it goes. But we do have the data, some of the data pulling in right now. But we'll see how tomorrow goes, and we'll see what actually pulls in on their first day of trades there. So just wanted to point this out. Don't forget that this will be coming out tomorrow with a starting price of around $20, okay? So now that I've spent way too much of your time going through that, we're going to finally get into this. Luckily for y'all, we only have, I wrote it down here, so unless I forgot to write one down, we only have 6 ETFs that had trades. Unfortunately, one of them had quite a bit. So, what I'm going to do, we're going to go in order like I normally do, and I'm going to go ahead and start with AIYY. I'm sorry, again, I thought I had this ready to go, and then I'm looking at this. I'm going to hide that again. Okay, sorry. I thought I was prepared. Okay, here we go. So this is the holdings with tomorrow's date, because this would be the end of days and then, of course, the beginning of tomorrow. So we go to AIYY. We had a closing price of 17.51, and then AI closed at 29.69. I do know that AI was up to 30 something dollars today. They did have earnings today. I didn't look at it this evening to see where we closed at in after hours, but I know it got up to like the peak right after earnings. I'm sorry, excuse me, right after earnings, up to like $35. And it hit $35 and then it dropped, and then it was like stopping at 34, and then it just kept stopping before that. So the last time I saw it, it was roughly $33.50. So with that said, our strike price, our weekly strike price is $31. So with the having that good earnings and it going up, I don't know if tomorrow's gonna, if it's looking like it's gonna be a green day or red day. I don't know what data's coming out. I don't know if PPI or CPI or some kind of data was coming out. I saw some kind of, and again, for those of you that don't know, I listen to podcasts, I listen trading or something. I always have something playing in the background, usually when I work. Whether I'm in the office and I'm trying to drown out everything around me, or if I'm at home and I'm trying to just feel the quietness or whatever, in the living room in the RV. But anyway, I heard them talking about. Man, I just totally lost my train of thought of where I was even going with that a second ago. Oh, about the data. About they were saying something about the market was starting to go red in preparation for this data coming out. So I don't know. This is up, like I said, after hours, but who knows? Maybe it'll come back in, or I don't know. Maybe I don't know how and when Yieldmax decides to do what they do. I don't know if it's just they have set rules, or if it's just we'll see. But maybe they'll close this out first thing in the morning. I really do not know how it's going to go. But anyway, sorry, I've talked too much about that one. But I just wanted to put that out there that as of right now, we are maxed out, even though it shows here a difference, but that was as of close today. Of course, we know pre-market or post-market and then pre-market doesn't necessarily mean that's what's going to happen during the market days. So we will just see. Okay, I'm going to jump on over because I know we had our AMDY trades here. So we have our first two lines, our synthetic call put with our 180 strike price, and we are adding to that current strike price that we already have for 235 contracts. The next line you'll see we have our third line is our weekly call. Now this call is not, they've already started. What is it? It's what is it? I don't even know what day. Okay, it's Wednesday. I'm like, I don't know what day of the week it is. But it's Wednesday. Last week, this is only be my second week covering this, but last week they started buying weekly calls for the next week's expiration on Thursday. This week I see they did it on Wednesday. I guess it just, again, it depends, and I don't know what their rules are, but this one will be for next week at the 182.50 strike price, which is already one of the strike prices we had. And again, for 235 contracts. And just again, for those of you that if this is your first video, what I've tried to do to make these videos shorter, but then apparently I always end up filling them with something else. I've tried to go through these trades and highlight things ahead of time. So I've already looked to see, is this a new expiration date? Is this a new strike price? Are we closing things? Or just something and highlighting and just checking them beforehand. It's made things go a little bit smoother. But if we look over to the left-hand side, we can see that the total trading over here, the trading cost for these three lines that we've brought in, 139K for those for AMDY. So if we go over to our holdings, dated for tomorrow, we can see here we had that first weekly call there, 182.50. That's the one that expires this week. And then the one you can see, the third line down there, it's the one that's going to expire next week for the same strike price at 182.50. And then, of course, we have 185 in between those two, which expires this Friday. So over on the left-hand side, we can see AMDY closed at 22.37 today. AMD closed at 176.54. And then, of course, we have our max strike price of 185. So the difference between that and AMD is about $8.50, which would put the other one about $6 away. So that's where we stand for AMDY. And then let me look at my notes here. For AMZ, we did not have any trades, so we'll just look over this. And again, because we do have double the subscribers we had the other day, I don't read every single line on here and all the numbers on here. I don't know if people ask me to, then I guess I would, but you can see the treasury, you can see the cash, you can see the market value of each line, you can see the prices paid and the shares. But I haven't been reading the synthetic strike price, but that is also here. So usually I'll read the trades. Again, I won't read every single line of the trade, but I'm going to, read off the main details there. And then I usually come over here and we review the weekly strike prices like we just did and some of the data on the left-hand side. But all the data is here visible for you. Again, if I get enough requests to do something or read these, I can. It's no problem. I know for me, when I'm driving, I'm always listening to a podcast. Of course, I know I say podcasts, but a YouTube video. Of course, I'm just listening to it. So if it was something like this, or I'm actually wanting to watch and look at the screen or do screenshots or whatever, that's not one I'd be listening to while I'm driving. Or even throwing out a bunch of numbers, because me in my head, I'm sitting here trying to visualize all these numbers being thrown at me, and there's just no way I can do it, even though I'm like a numbers person. But anyway, just to give the quick over of that. So here we'll look at AMZ. We see we closed at $23 on the left-hand side there. And then Amazon closed at 173.16. And if we look on the right, we have the two strike prices. So we have one weekly call at 175 and one weekly call at 177.50. So from that max strike price there, we are $4.34 away. And then if we're looking at the other one, we're roughly almost $2 away from that strike price. So we'll move on down to Apple because there were no trades for Apple today, or none listed. And that's another thing too. I know I wait until the holdings are posted for the day, but I'm also sort of waiting because I have done it before where I've copied the trades and I thought they were done. And then I was like, oh, there's no Tesla trades. And then I go watch Rod's video and then he had Tesla trades. So I guess when they're dropping the data, they're not all exactly at the same time. They're all different workbooks. They are their own workbooks, and they get updated at different times. So I want to make sure that I give enough time for the data to pull. And I try to get it out the night before versus the morning of, so you can have more time to review the data. Some people listen to it at night. Some people listen to it early in the morning. And if I'm not making the video until 8 or so o'clock, then that makes it harder for y'all to get access to this, especially if you have to work during the day. So, but anyway, I know some of this is repetitive for some of you that have already watched this, so sorry and apologize for that. But anyway, we'll move on to Apple here real quick. Our price is $18.16 as of close. Apple was at $181.42. We have two strike prices over here. So we have one at one weekly strike price that is at $182.50. There's only 80 contracts there, so not too many. We're about $1 away from that one, and then we have our other main one. It's at its strike price is 185, so we're about $3.50 from it. But we've got almost 3,000 contracts for that one, so that's our biggest one there. Not always the case on these, so if you're concerned about some of these strike prices, just look at the number of shares that it has with it. So we will move on down to Coney, which I know I've seen a lot of conversations in the Discord about this one. Again, retire on dividends. We'll cover this in more detail tomorrow, but they did not have any trades listed. Man, this was on a roller coaster today, and I don't have it pulled up in front of me, but if I remember correctly, like we were up, maybe 207, maybe more. I can't remember, but we were up, and it had a little bit of roller coaster, and then at the end of the day, it had come down to like 196. I think it closed at like 196 something. That was about the time I went to pick my daughter up from school, and then this evening I had like a notification of selling or something at one of my trades that I'd put out there, or orders, whatever you want to call it. Anyway, I went out there and looked, and coin was up to $213. And I was just shocked. And with that say, and I know all of y'all are going to want to go look now, but of course, when you watch this video, it could be totally different. But because I was just talking about it, I feel like I have to look. Oh, yeah. So now it's only showing at $201. And maybe it wasn't 213. So let me go back on that. Now I'm wondering which one that was. That might have been a different one, because I look here. So we closed at 200. We did get down to the 196, but this shows we only went up to $204.40. So I don't know what it was that I saw went up to 213. It had to be something else then. So sorry about that. But so we ranged between 196 and 204 and after hours. So we will see what they do. A lot of people thought that they would have closed this one out. Today, it did not happen. I don't know how much it would have cost for them to close it out. I'm sure I wouldn't be surprised in the morning if Retire on Dividends goes and looks it up on that. I think he called it Thinkswim. Somebody showed him how to go look up how much it would have cost if they would have closed it out at a certain time. I don't know options, so I'm not even going to try. I'm just hoping or expecting maybe this inflation data that's going to come out is going to make the stock market go down, and hopefully we close underneath this price, and if we don't, we don't. I guess they're just going to make that money up on the, I don't know, the synthetic side, the synthetic call puts. But anyway, so I won't dwell on that anymore, because Retire on Dividends will do a way better job than me going out down in the detail on the weeds on that. So he's more educated when it comes to those types of things, and Coney specifically. So I'll move on to Dizzo. There are no intraday trades on this one. So just to review, we closed at $21.96 today for Dizzo, and Disney is closed at $110.80. So if we look over here, we are already above our strike prices. We have 2 weekly calls that expire Friday. One's at 109 and one's at 110. This isn't that volatile. They're probably not going to close these out, and we'll just see what happens on Friday. I don't think they. I think they might have maxed out at one point yesterday for those weekly calls, but I remember showing the roll up yesterday that I had done. No, it was not one of them. It was the top 5 here that had. Sorry, I thought I had some multiple tabs open. Look, and I'm going to open all my stuff here. Oh, I know what happened here. So the data, I'm not going to have it here because for those of you that don't know, this data, will automatically update. And if you don't copy the data, and it won't save. Well, on my roll up, I forgot to copy and paste values. So everything got overridden. So I just made sure my end data there and I deleted everything else. So yeah, so sorry about that. I don't have that data there. Okay. So, back over here though. So we are, I can't even think now. Okay, so we are 80 cents over our 110 strike price and obviously $1.80 over our 109 strike price. So we'll see, you can see right now our weekly call value. Dang, I'm sorry, I accidentally pushed the plus button over here on the side. I'll just move. We're still, our weekly call value is only, well, I say only, but it's 195K in the hole. And I say only because when you compare it to the others, which I know it's hard because for this one it could be a significant amount of money, right? But it's hard to compare these when you're looking, at some of these because they're significant dollar amounts here. But it's not too bad there. But I'm just going to keep talking and going on if we don't move on. But we'll see how that goes at the end of the week. So this one, we finally get to another one that had a trade. All right. So FBY, we show here that they added to their synthetic at the $485 strike. There was just 10 contracts. And then they opened up a new weekly call, $500, same straight prices for this week, but this one will expire next Friday. And you can see over here our total trade cost for all of these ended up, actually not even cost, but our total trades we ended up bringing in $1,000. So most of that was pretty much a wash there. So if I go back over here and we look at our holdings, so you see our first two weekly calls there. We have a 500 strike price with 415 shares, and then we have a 505 strike price with 400 shares. And then you can see on that third line that we had that other 500 strike price for those 10 shares with the expiration date of next Friday, March 8th. So if we look over to the left, we had FBY that closed today at 23.29. Meta closed at 484.02. And so to our max strike price, which is 505, we're about $21 away from that one. Therefore, we're about $16 away from our other strike price. So we're still a little bit of ways away there. So let's move on. Our next one is GUI, and we did have trades for GUI. So we'll come over here. Okay, on GUI, I think this is our first close position. So, or our closing trade for the day. They ended up closing out the weekly call with the strike price of $146. So they closed out all of the contracts for that 146 strike. So they closed out all 865 of them. And you see they only paid 2 cents a share to close those out. So they do have another strike price they didn't close out. I don't know if it's because of the cost per share wasn't where they wanted it. I don't really know, but you'll see it on the other tab. What they did, though, is they did open a new weekly call with the expiration date of next Friday with a strike price of 140. Of course, we already have one at 140 for this week's expiration. But they ended up opening up 850 contracts for that. And so, and I thought about this earlier, but now I didn't do anything about it. Yeah. I should have looked at this earlier. I saw the two different prices, and then in my head I was like, oh, it shouldn't be, not prices, sorry. I looked at these and I thought to myself, oh, those should be the same number of contracts. And then I thought, well, maybe there's less contracts, or maybe some was sold out of it, right? So there would be less. But then it didn't dawn on me, if that's the case, then you would think that there would be synthetic lines also closing out 15. And I could be totally wrong. But I go over here and I can see, just glancing, that, well, it's not really a glance, but if I add up the weekly shares, I mean, obviously, we just saw it on the other side, that it's not the same. But anyway, 1780 is how many we have. And so I guess it's not that they had to do it, right? They can come back today and they can purchase some more at a different price. Again, I'm not an options guru. Be honest with you, I tell this funny story all the time. I remember being in school. I don't know if it was high school or college, and they started talking about the stock market and all this stuff, and I just got confused. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to boycott this. So until last year, anything to do with investing, I didn't do anything. I mean, I put money in my retirement. I did my husband's ESPP, but then that was it. I threw money at the problem and then just hoped it all worked out. And then, of course, now this past year, I've tried to start learning things, but options is a new thing for me. And then trying to actually decipher the Yieldmax funds and how they actually work. It's one thing, I promise you, especially if you don't know options, if you're not like Max and you did options for a living, or you don't actually do options trading yourselves. But I promise it's one thing to listen to Rod, Retire on Dividends, talk about these things, and then it's another thing downloading the data, trying to decipher it, what everything is, what it means, and get to an end result. So it's not as easy as it looks, I promise. So, so I probably have this part right here backwards, but I should have thought that out earlier. Instead, I was just like, "Oh no, we're okay." But I think we are okay. It just means that they'll purchase more tomorrow when they can purchase with their synthetic shares. I believe. Somebody correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I'm just rambling now, but I believe what that means is that they would be able to purchase 15 more weekly call contracts without increasing their synthetic shares. But please tell me in the comments if I'm right or wrong. That way I will know going forward if I misspoke. Sorry, so we will move on here. Let's see. So I wanted to point that out. We closed and we opened, and you can see that 146 is no longer over here. But you see here this weekly call 147 is still there. And you see that we have a 140 strike for this week and the one for next week that they just opened up there. So if we go on over to the left, GUI ended up closing at 1637 today. Google closed at 136.38. They haven't been doing that great lately. So they've actually been going down, and I think they're even down a couple of dollars from yesterday, possibly. But anyway, our max strike price there is 147, so we're about $10.60 from that. If we're looking at our 141, we're like $3.62 from that. So if Google keeps going down like this, we're not going to have any issues with those strike prices as far as going past them. So I don't think we have to worry about those right now. But you never know. Every day things change. So we will go on to JPMO. And this one does have trades. So we're going to scroll down here. And so you can see here what I was talking about above. So they closed out 30 of the synthetic and 30 for the weekly call there. And yeah, so they closed out just, I think it's just 30. We'll look at the other tab. But to do this, it ended up on it, they ended up bringing in $300 there. So that was almost a complete wash. So that was 185. Yeah. So you can see here we still have a synthetic with that strike price of 185. All they did was close out 30 contracts for those. But you can see here that we have two weekly calls, one with a strike price of 185 and one with a strike price of 187.50. So the 185 one, we have 100 contracts there, and we're about 62 cents from that price. Now our 187.50, we have 330 contracts, and we're $3.12 $3.12 from that strike price. And it looks like our overall weekly call value is only like negative 13K there. So it's not too bad. I'm curious. When we close those, yeah, we need 24 cents to close the 187.50. Okay. Anyway, we'll move on down to MRNY, or Murny as I call it. We don't have any trades for today, but Murny closed at $20.33. Moderna closed at 97.48, and it actually went up from yesterday. I think at one point it was up to like $99. I could be wrong. That could have been yesterday. Sometimes I'll glance at all of them. Sometimes I just look at one or two if I get alerts or something, and on my breaks or during lunch. And then I don't really have set necessarily a begin and end time for the day. So depending on when I start or end work, I may look at them during that time frame as well. And then of course I hear, maybe not the Yieldmax funds, but listening to like trading podcasts and stuff, I hear when certain things are going on with certain ones, and I'll hear prices. But anyway, we're still under our strike price here. We have one weekly call with the strike price of $100, and we're $2.52 away from there. So we've been cutting it close this week, but we're looking good right now. And we'll go down to MSFO, but we did have some trades here. So I'll go back over to my trades tab, MSFO. So you can see here we opened 20 contracts. So we have a synthetic call put for our 420 strike, and we just added 20 contracts to that. And then we have a new weekly call opened up for expiration date, with an expiration date next Friday, March 8th. And the strike price for that one is $412.50, which is a new strike price for us. And so these total trades, we ended up bringing in $28,000 there. So if we go on over to our holdings, we see those 20 contracts there. But then we also see this week's weekly call that will expire on Friday. Its strike price is $417.50 with 820 contracts. So our max, if we look over here, MSFT Microsoft is 400. It closed today. I don't know if I'll be able to keep doing these at night if I can't talk. I know you don't like hearing me stutter. Sorry about that. My brain's a little tired at this point. But Microsoft closed at $407.72. So that max strike price, we're almost $10 away from that one. So we're almost $5 away from our strike price for next week. So again, that'll be Next week, we're still, it's the 28th. We have a leap year, so tomorrow will be the 29th. So we're still like 9 days away from that. But yeah, so the one that expires this week, though, we're almost $10 away. So we will, let's see, MSTY. So that is the last one with trades for the day. And I'm sure you saw all that yellow on the other tab. My goodness. It made my head hurt. But yeah, it actually sort of sucks when you start looking back and you look at the last few days, because this is a brand new one. But it is brand new. And honestly, who knew that Bitcoin was going to hit? I don't even know what it hit today. Did it hit 65,000, 60, I don't know, 65, 67. It was one of them. But it hit, and then it, of course, right after that, it like totally tanked. I think it came back up in after hours, though, but I haven't seen it. I haven't looked in a while. But what they ended up doing, so I'll stop all that. But what they ended up doing was the synthetic call put that we had there. They ended up closing, and I think they ended up fully closing that one out. So let me just make sure, because I did not. Yeah. So they ended up fully closing it out. So that's what those first two lines are. And you can see the total cost on the right. I should take those zeros away. But I'm sorry. That was the first two lines were the closing, so of the 680. And if you look at line 3 and 4, that's us opening up a new synthetic position. It's the same expiration date of March 28th. The only difference is the strike price there. And so we went from 680 to 950. And you can see today on the left, we ended up closing today at 962.95. They ended up closing all the weekly calls that they had for March 1st. If I remember correctly, yeah, there's no March 1st there now. Even the one that they just opened yesterday, they ended up closing. And then I should have brought that up over here. But yeah, so see how yesterday we opened this $1,000 one, and I was thinking, wow, that's a high number. Of course, now we're already closing it out, but let's see, it was only 10 contracts, so it's not that much. Of course, these are high dollar ones compared to some of the other ones like AI. But the cost per share was $12.40. Now, if we look back over here at today's dates for that same exact one, the cost per share ended up being $45. So, heck, even looking at the $755 one, it cost $222 to close that one out. So, we got burned on these. Again, new fund, Bitcoin's crazy. It's going to go everywhere. I know people are going to get mad, but you know what? I mean, it's Bitcoin. Well, obviously, this isn't specifically Bitcoin, but because it is Bitcoin related, it's going to go crazy with like a roller coaster, just like Coney is going to. And then sometimes Block does it also. I guess it just depends on the storyline with that one, because it can go very different ways. So it's just going to happen. So anyway, what they ended up doing, they ended up moving these to next week. So you can actually see, if you look on the contracts column, right, you can line up the 37, 13, and 10. You can see down at the bottom three, 37, 13, and 10. So they moved all the ones from this week to that 14/30 strike. Then we had two new contracts of 8 right here. And I'm hovering my pencil over it. And I'm sorry, I know you can't see that. So just make it easier, I'll click right there. But we have this one. This is new. And you can also see where we went from 60 synthetic contracts to 68 synthetics. So those are our new ones, and that one actually ended up being opened up at 13.50. So let me do my check mark there. Anyway, so we had lots of things going on here. Sorry, I'm just looking at these codes just because I didn't look at these in depth, and I just want to make sure that these codes were correct. Because if these types on here, the S and the BC and the B and the SS's, and I think that's all the different ones we have, basically like those first four. If those aren't right, then my formulas aren't going to be right because I do have these things set up on formulas. So I was just looking at the plus and minuses for the total cost column over here on the right. So I was just checking to make sure it looked right. And basically, I'm sure if you've seen Rod's video, you know how these work. But like that first one, they ended up, it shows over here, they ended up bringing in 1.7 million to close out that call. But they ended up having to pay 120,000 to close out the put. So then whatever those two together is 1.6 million, that's when it basically costs to close the synthetic, that one. And so when they opened up this next line, of course they had to buy that, they had to do the buy and the, I think SS is short sale. But they bought and sold those. And then you can see over here, because those two go together, that synthetic ended up really only costing like 34,000. So those synthetics you can group together like that. And then, of course, all these weeklies are pretty much, they're independent of each other, each transaction. And on my roll up, I do have this a little bit different. Of course, on the right hand side, I have all of these total costs by each individual line. And then I just have the total trade on the left. So you can see if we added up all of these, regardless if they were synthetics or weeklies or whatever, our total trades, we brought in $734,000 for these. But then on the roll-up tab, I have it broken down for possibly later, because I'm going to try to use some of that data to help with the distributions later on. But that's something that I'm currently working on. Sorry, I just thought I'd come back over here to this one since we were just talking about that. So if we look here, we can see the other day, it actually, when we opened these versus closing them, how it ended up costing us a couple of 100,000 right there for that synthetic. But that was only for 10 contracts. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked, something that I should have done beforehand, and jumping on here with y'all. So if we go over here to MSTY, even though we had tons of trades over there, when we come over here, it looks pretty simple, right? We have our new synthetic with the strike price of $950 that we already saw on the other tab. And we have those 68 contracts, and we have the two new weekly strikes with all of the strikes that were going to expire this week. We closed those, so they're all gone, and now we just have our two new weekly ones that will expire next Friday. So if we look over here, we have Misty. It closed at $23.81, and MicroStrategy MSTR, it ended up closing at $962.95. So it's sort of crazy when you look at our max strike price, because the difference between what MicroStrategy closed at today and our max strike price is like half of the current stock price. So it's $467, and half of 962 is 480. Yeah, it's almost half. So it seems crazy, but anything can happen. So I don't know, but I know Rod added this to his workbook. So for those of you, if you haven't seen them this week, and I think he did it, started covering this ever since it came out. But he'll be covering that daily for now as long as he can. Of course, he has things that he has to do too with family, and he has a job and everything else. But it was also added to his daily thing, and it was added to the weekly recap, the Monday recap, or Tuesday recap if Monday's a holiday. So these are on his spreadsheet. But anyway, we will move on. That was the last trade, so the rest of these will just basically be reviewing what we'd already looked at yesterday, with the exception of the stock prices and the differences, right? So we have Netflix here. It closed at $18.93. Netflix closed at $596.48. We have 3 weekly calls. Strike prices $5.95, $600, and $6.15. The difference between Netflix and our max strike price is $18.52, but that's only for 15 contracts. So if we're looking at to the 600, which is where most of our contracts are, 485 of them to be exact, we're $3.52 from that one, and our 595, we're already over at $1.50. So we will see what the rest of the next 2 days bring. We'll move on to Nvidia here. The stock price closed at $28.65. Nvidia closed at $776.63. We have 4 strike prices, 4 different weekly calls with 4 different strike prices that will all expire this week. So you see we have our lowest strike price to the biggest is going to be similar to how the shares are, right? The smaller the strike price, the smaller number of, well, it says shares, but contracts. So we have 810 with the 25, 815, 30, 825, 105 contracts, and 835 with the majority, with 2,750 contracts. So that is our most important one. However, what I'm guessing what happened here is Nvidia's been going down. So instead of adding to the higher strike price this week that they already have, they've just been buying new contracts, opening new positions with lower strike prices to get closer to the actual price of Nvidia. I don't know what the percentage is as far as out of the money these are. That's actually, I've never even thought about it on my spreadsheets until just this second. I know Retire on Dividends does have that on his spreadsheets. So, like I said, I've been doing this week and a half now, and haven't thought about it. If y'all want it's added somewhere, yeah, you can let me know, and I'll think about it and figure out how I'd want to do that if I do it. But anyway, if we look that max strike price to our Nvidia close price today, we're over $58 away from that one. So we're looking pretty good as long as it doesn't start going back up. And then if we look at that lowest strike price, we're somewhere around $34-ish away from that one. So we're still got a big distance there. Okay, if we move on to OARC's price is $13.45. ARC was at $51.16 at close, and we are past our strike price. We have 1 weekly call with a strike price of $50.50, so we are over that by 66 cents. I don't recall if it was over the strike price yesterday at close or not. I think it was, but I could be wrong. We've had several of these. I don't know. I haven't been totally tracking, but for the past couple of weeks, I hadn't seen so many at the strike price or over their strike prices that I've seen this week at once. There's been 4 or 5 each day, so I don't know. Again, I haven't been covering these very long to know what the norm is, right? And I know these people, they obviously would do a lot better job than I ever would. So But anyway, we're going to move on down to, for those of you that don't know, I do not call this PEEPEE. I refer to this as PayPay in honor of PayPal. But anyway, so we have PayPay here at 18.56 and PayPal at 60.25, and our max strike price, and we only have one of those. We have one weekly call is $61, and we are 75 cents away from that strike price. If we move on down to Block, SQY closed at 23.48. Block closed at 78.42. I think that's up a few dollars from yesterday. And then, well, unfortunately, I have after hours numbers in my head too, so I could be, when I say that, it may not have been the close price from yesterday. It could have been after hours, so I apologize there. I look at a lot of numbers all day, every day, for the stock market and in my job. So, but let's say we have one weekly call here. Our strike price is $84, so we are looking at a $5.58 difference from there between between Block and the strike price. And I don't know why I correct myself on this, because we say Google or Google all the time, and it's actually Alphabet, but I don't know. I see SQ and I think Square, but I know it's Block. I don't normally see Google and think, oh, that's Alphabet. I don't think about it till I get to this point, and it's like, well, we're already past it. Or when I get to Facebook and it's not Facebook and it's Meta. So I know sometimes I'll say these wrong, and it's just because I'm not truly thinking about the company prices. I'm looking at the ticker necessarily. So I do apologize if I misspeak. You know what I meant. Okay. So we'll move on down to Tesla. I know there was comments about thinking they closed this also the past few days, but no, it's probably going to stay here because that 200 area is a very heavily traded zone. So we got the 180, 180, 200, 220. So we have those heavily traded zones there. But it hasn't done too bad this week. It did end up closing at 202.04 today. So we are over it as of close today by $2.04. But Tesla itself, so I'm going to tell you, and I know I did the video on this reverse split, but man, I just really don't like this $18 price. I'd been looking at this thing. It irritates me every time I see it because I have to convert it in my head. I've been looking at it at $8 or $9 for a long time. So I always knew where my buy zones were, what I wanted to buy at or whatever else. And now I look at it every time and now I'm confused. I'm just like so confused. I'm like, I don't even want to look at it. Because then I'm like, oh, what is that divided by 2? And it's this. Okay, no, that's not where I wanted to buy it. Anyway, that's probably just me. And I know it's just a mental thing and whatever. Mine's a totally different mental issue than everybody else's, though. But anyway, that's just my own little issue that I'm having right now until I get used to this new price. But yeah, I wish it would just stay the other until we had to do one. But anyway, to move on. If you haven't seen this before, well, I know you have because all of y'all have been watching Rod's videos. But you've seen that this one has two different strike prices. For the synthetic, it has the 185 and the 220, which is why there's some extra lines over here, and you see 4 synthetics there. But we will keeping on. We're going to move on down to Zomo, or XOMO, which closed at 17.56 today. And Exxon closed at 104.37. Thank goodness for our new weekly call. However, it's not a lot of contracts. So that our new one that I think it was opened yesterday was strike price of 107. These strike prices for Exxon close next Friday. It doesn't have one for this week. But we have the ones 107, which are okay at. The problem is the 103 one. So we're $1.32 past it. In fact, I think we've been maxed out all week on this one. And some, if actually, we've been maxed out on this one quite a bit, at least over the past month or so, or month or two that I had owned it. So, but anyway, we're slowly, getting to another position. I guess we'll see how this goes because this one's open for a whole nother week. So I don't know at what point they will decide if they're just going to keep letting it ride or not. But anyway, we've already mentioned we're over that first strike price by $1.32, and we're $2.68 from the 107 strike price. And we didn't have any trades either in the YMAG or YMAX. We do have the price of YMAX today was $20.56, and then hold on, did I say? I don't know if I said the right one. YMAG was $20.56, and YMAX was at $21.22. Now, ULTY. Well, darn. Okay, well, that's new. That I did not see earlier, but now I know it's not just going to be on the ones with the Yieldmax, which I figured to begin with. I guess I should have had this on here the other day. Because this didn't bring in any intraday transactions. Obviously, the file's out there. It just didn't have any on it, right? For utility. For the Ultra. Okay. I'll get there with this one. So we didn't have intraday trades, and honestly, when I put the holding formula stuff in there, we didn't have today's data yet. So that's why I didn't see it. So I actually lied to somebody in the Discord, unknowingly, of course. But these are the holdings. I just don't know how much they paid for any of them. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is going to be new for me. So, me and you are seeing this. This sucks. For the first time together. I think this is because, I have already copied and pasted this. So, I don't think I had my formulas dragged all the way down since this was brand new. I'm sorry, I should have told you to close your eyes if this makes you, yeah. So see, I don't have this pulled down. Obviously, I had all of these over here pulled down. What I need to do is select this, and it's weird doing this on an iPad. And actually, I don't even know how far to take this. So I'm just going to paste all of those. Okay, so I did have it down far enough because cash is going to be our last one. Yeah. Now I'm like wishing I'd forgotten about this and didn't scroll down. I only say that because now I have to figure all of this out. Let's see how this looks different. Just to see if it looked different from any of the rest of them. So it does not. So I'm going to close this one because we don't really need that data. We really don't need the weightings either. I guess I'll leave it mainly on there for the YMAX and the YMAG. Mainly. Yeah, so I'm going to have to make some changes here. And then, so it looks like we have option date expirations that range from, this Friday all the way to March 15th. So March 1st, March 8th, and March 15th. And obviously we have AI. We know what AI is if we're following, at least if we know what follow AIYY. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what ALT is. Of course, I know what Army is. Man, I feel like I should know that next one. Look at that. We have coin in here. Man, that looks like Carvana, but I'm pretty sure Carvana is CVAN. I had to look that one up. DWAC, okay. Know what that one is, which has been referred to as the Trump stock. GCT, I feel like I heard that one today. I don't know at GRPN, but when I look at that, I think Groupon. So we'll see. LabU, I don't know. Mara, of course we know Mara. We got Mara and Coinbase. MDGL, I recognize it, but I don't know what it is. Now, again, I'm not a big trader, and I'm not a big stock market person, so it's very possible, that a lot of you know what these names are. MSOS, man, that has to do with, I don't know if that's the one that has to do with cannabis or if it's something else, because I know it's one of those special things. But anyway, so then of course we have MicroStrategy, Innox, I don't know what that is, Riot, it's going to be another one of those, sort of like Mara, SC, I don't know, and then SMCI, Semiconductor, is that what that's, SMCI, I recognize it, I know what it is, and I know it just went crazy expensive with it in NVIDIA, and then it had tanked after earnings, and then I guess it's gone back up. And SOUN, in fact, that one's done great the last couple of days. SoundHound, I think that's what it is. I think NVIDIA said that they bought a stake in that. And then TMDX, I feel like I heard that the last few days, and I know I heard VKTX the last, maybe just today, I don't know. But yeah, this is a little different, and how they have these set up and how this is coming across, right? Because I don't know. Again, I'm going to have to figure this out, figure out how this should be, and I may or may not have this done by tomorrow night. So just to let you know that up front, I just want to make sure that this data is complete and accurate data, and that I am looking at this and understanding what I'm looking at. And then I'll check tomorrow's to make sure, like, see how those, assuming there's going to be intraday trades tomorrow, since this is already here. And I don't know, because it's not on the intraday trap, so I don't know if these are true and accurate. In fact, they may not be. These could just be things that they plan on doing tomorrow. I really don't know, because if you actually look on the Yieldmax site, ULTY was not on there yet. So I hate this thing. Let's just see if it's there now. ETFs. They may have it there now. I'm just double checking, make sure I didn't just overlook it. So no. So I would say take this data with a grain of salt, because I cannot confirm that this data is true and correct, right? So we'll see tomorrow. We'll get a better idea if this data is accurate, or if this was just, proposed data where they were working on a file or whatever. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sorry. I know I've just now carried this out longer by seeing this data actually populate things. And you know what? Now that I think about this, yeah, this did have data here earlier. And I say that because it only had cash data. But I guess that was before I copied it because I didn't have it on the bottom of the previous day. Yeah. But I remembered now because somebody asked. I was like, no, I have the data, and there there has been no execution in it yet. It just had cash. It said it had $500,000 and 25,000 outstanding shares, which divided into each other made it so it was $20 for the NAB. Obviously, it didn't have 25,000 shares of $500,000. Of course, now this says net assets are 2.5 million. So again, take it with a grain of salt. We will find out what the true and accurate data is tomorrow, and then we will go from there. But if nothing else, this at least gives you an idea here of the underlying, the different types of underlying stocks, and to know that it's not just going to be the companies that Yieldmax already has the one hit wonder tickers on, right? It's not just Apple or any of those. They're also looking at other ones out there, which is what I thought. It had just been a minute since going through all the weeds of what this one was going to be, and everything. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this here. Sorry for dragging this out another 5 or 10 minutes just because this took me off guard. And then we'll try to follow up more on this tomorrow and see what we have. But anyway, y'all have a good day tomorrow, and I will talk to y'all later.